We are in our AZ-900 journey towards certification, and this next Microsoft topic is to describe the benefits of using cloud services. So here are some cloud benefits. Cost. Now, once again, this is information that is given by Microsoft to help you pass the AZ-900 certification exam. However, it doesn't mean that it's going to be true in production. So they're saying that cost is a cloud benefit. I have found a lot of times that it costs more to use the Azure cloud for certain resources, but it costs less for other resources. So let's just go ahead and pretend that we're saying that cost is the benefit when it comes to the AZ-900 exam in all cases. So moving to the cloud helps companies optimize IT costs. And that's because it eliminates what's called capital expenditures, or CapEx. You don't have to buy hardware, you don't have to buy software, you don't have to pay somebody to continue to set it up and run it and update it, all those different things. And of course, pay to rent the rack at the data center. There's also electricity to be involved and cooling. And sometimes it makes more sense to use the public cloud or private cloud so you don't have to worry about that. For instance, at one point, I could get faster internet connection at my house than I could at the office that I was renting for my business. And the best I could get was DSL at that time because this was the early 2000s. But at my house, I could get megabits of speed. It wasn't gigabit at that time, but it was definitely much faster than DSL speed. So I had all these servers at my house, but then I found the electricity was costing so much, the air conditioning, the extra cost for electricity, the noise, things like that. So even though I could service my customers better in the early days of cloud computing, and the cloud was actually at my house, then I was able to eventually move those off to data centers later on, which of course made my wife and family very happy. They didn't have to listen to the noise and deal with the heat. Then you've got what's called the speed improvement, which is where most cloud computing services nowadays, not necessarily 20 years ago, but nowadays they have much faster speeds that you can get there. So for example, at the data center that I currently rent from, I have 1,000 megabits or 1 gigabit upload and download. Now typically your cable service that you're going to get at most homes is going to have a good download, maybe a gigabit or faster, but you're not going to have that good upload. And that's because most homes don't have fiber types of connections. They have cable, which doesn't have that synchronized upload and download speed. Scaling, global scale. The benefits of cloud computing service include the ability to scale what's called elastically. So that means that you can add more or take away compute services such as RAM and storage and of course your CPUs and the speed of your network. You can increase or decrease or even do what's called horizontal scaling, where you can add additional servers when needed. All those types of scaling requirements that your organization might have are much easier to do in the cloud than they are on premises or in your own data center that you're renting. Productivity. On-site data centers typically require a lot of different hardware setup and patching, lots of time-consuming types of things. Now, depending on the type of cloud model you use, whether you use infrastructure as a service as opposed to software as a service, then infrastructure is still going to require a considerable amount of productivity, but it's not going to require a lot of hardware expenditures or any, because of the fact that Microsoft takes care of that for you. Then you have performance. You get to choose the performance for your resources. So for instance, for virtual machines, you could decide how much RAM to load into this, how many virtual CPUs that you'd like to have, what type of speed you'd like to have, the hard drive types. For instance, you can use regular hard disk drives, which run at 7,200 RPMs, or you could run solid state drives, which run much, much faster, but then again, of course, they cost more to run. So you decide the performance based on what you want to pay. And of course, reliability. Cloud computing makes backup, disaster recovery, business continuity, high availability, all those different things are much easier because they can happen on the fly, and Microsoft can keep multiple different copies of your resources, either in the same data center, different data centers, or completely different geographic regions. Security is going to be a relative type of thing. If you have total control over your own computing devices in your on-premises or private data center, then you get to control the security. But if you're using Azure, they will control that security for you, and that could be a lot less expensive for you because of the fact they're securing a whole lot of different organizations all at once. They have a lot of different policies which help you be compliant with various different types of certifications, such as ISO and things like that. Microsoft has a whole list of different certifications they have for compliance at their site. I've gotten into various different Azure data centers over the years before they were even called Azure data centers. For instance, I went to relocate Microsoft Xbox. They contracted with me and my company to relocate from the MSN headquarters many years ago to go to a data center. And one of the interesting things I noticed was the security was very strong. You had to walk into what's called a man trap, where it's sort of like a phone booth. You walk in one side, they take your credentials, such as your driver's license, and if you are not allowed to be in that location, then they send for the police and lock you into this man trap. If you are going to be allowed in because you do have the proper credentials, then they open up the other side and you walk through it. That's just one of the many different types of security that you're going to see at an Azure data center if you're invited to go in. For the Azure AZ-900 exam, there's many benefits for using cloud services that you just heard in this video. You might find yourself answering a question about one of these benefits in your AZ-900 exam.